Hi, today I wanted to talk through how I'm caring for this Drosera Andromeda plant. Um, this is a hybrid between prolifera and schizandra. I'm probably butchering those names, but these are kind of interesting because they come from forest floors. They're used to less light, but higher humidity. And I mean, like you can see, they have a really unique shape, and they're super dewy leaves. It's kind of an interesting sundew to have. So as far as the soil, this was a mix of perlite and long-form sphagnum moss. And that's a pretty different if you're familiar with caring for sundews than the typical one. So not just peat and perlite, but really like a very mossy mix. And if you think about these being from a forest floor, then maybe that makes a bit more sense. I also keep these in a bell jar. I have never seen anyone successfully not keep these somehow kind of enclosed, in a grow tent or in a greenhouse or something. At least with most ambient humidity in homes, I think it's not enough. So I have this kind of, I'll admit, sort of funny looking bell jar, and I'll try to put this on, and I'm have to move my stand a little bit. But it sits in here pretty constantly. So it's a bit of a different experience. I'm used to having other plants in my house just kind of sit out. I got this at at a hobby store, just randomly. I think it was like $20 US. Anyway, as far as the water goes, I have this sitting in water, just kind of shallow bit of water. It's a little bit hard to see because there's just so much moss growth, but if I take it out of this little dish, there's like a little bit in there. I put this in here and maybe it creeps up like an inch or so. I'm gonna show you how to show this. Maybe if I change the camera a little bit, you can kind of see like not very much, right? This is not toward the top of the plant or anything at all. As far as feeding, I feed this fairly rarely. I've read that you can get rot on the leaves if you feed these too regularly or feed them too much. I've not really noticed that, but again, this is the kind of hardier hybrid version, so maybe it's different for either of these other species. I really would urge you, if you have one of the other species, I think schizandra or prolifera, you should probably seek out videos about those. Those are supposed to be a lot more challenging than this one. Another big difference is I put this far from the light. It's kind of like I've had this near a grow light, but off to the side. So it's been getting light, but it's pretty indirect, and it's the sort of light that I think would stress other carnivorous plants. And this one seems to be doing okay. I have not had another one of these to compare this to necessarily. But yeah, it seems fine. I've had this for many months now. I'm actually going to try moving this to an even lower light situation. I remember when I picked this up, it was greener than it is now. I feel like it's a little bit yellow compared to what I remember, so I'm going to try to green it up a little bit. I'm also going to chill it, put it in slightly cooler temps than I have now. I have another grow table that is closer to a window, so at night it gets cooler. Where I have right now, it's pretty uniform in the 70s Fahrenheit. Throughout the day and night. It's kind of further into my apartment. And as you can see, tons of moss growing, which I think is pretty cool, actually. Or if you need moss for your other plants, it's constantly growing on here just because it's enclosed, right? So it needs that super high humidity. And I guess in that way, it's very convenient. Like I never really have to do anything to this plant, right? I don't have to fill the water. Rarely anyway. I'm trying to say this like the right way, I guess. I am not a huge fan of this plant, actually. I feel like because you have to put it in a strange place, not where I'm used to putting a lot of my plants, I feel like I look at it less. I also interact with it a lot less because it's in a bell jar, and sometimes it's foggy in there, right? And or if I'm taking the jar on and off, I don't want to hit all the dew, which is really cool. But I feel like you kind of get dropping leaves, which you do with all sundews, but I never really feel like most of the leaves are dewy and healthy. Maybe that's my conditions that, maybe that'll be better when I change them. But Yeah, who knows? Maybe in this new position, I'll like it a lot more. I'm putting it, kind of further to the side in this dead spot, that other plants probably couldn't survive in, at least carnivorous plants. So maybe I'll, report loving it in a couple months. But yeah, as far as feeding, when you do that, I've fed with Maxi, and they seem happy. I've fed with dried bloodworms that seemed fine as well. I didn't overdo it. I didn't put tons on there, but just like one or two. Um, yeah, that's about all to report. I think this was probably originally from California carnivores, but I guess this Andromeda hybrid is it's been common for a while now. So yeah, if you get one or if you have one, good luck growing, and let me know if you have any tricks. Thanks.